This podcast is brought to you by B2B Better. Most B2B podcasts rack up downloads, but they never move the needle on pipeline. At B2B Better, we build own media systems that sales teams actually use to close deals. We've helped companies turn their podcasts into revenue engines, shortening sales cycles, improving outbound reply rates, and directly influencing millions in pipeline. So if you're tired of content that looks good on paper, but doesn't drive business results, visit b2b-better.com to see how we do it differently. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and we've got a quick episode of Pipe Dream today. I want to tell you a story. I once had this client who had it written into their contracts with vendors: we will never participate in case studies, period. Legal wouldn't allow it, procurement are going to be blocking it, policy was very clear, there's no exceptions. 6 months later, that same client came on our podcast, and they spent 45 minutes talking about the exact transformation that we wanted in the case study in the first place. It was the same result. We sort of measured it by the same metrics. It was the same story. And it was the same ask, ultimately. It was just packaged differently. Because here's the kicker. They wanted the episode to go live. They wanted to promote it. They wanted to share it on their LinkedIn. So today, I'm going to show you exactly why this happens and how to use it to unlock the social proof that you desperately need. Here we go. If you're in B2B, you've hit this wall 1,000 times. You need proof, you need case studies, you need someone who's going to go on the record and say, we worked with these people and here's what happened. But you ask and you get, we don't do case studies. Sometimes it's the procurement team. They say, we're vendor agnostic, we can't show favoritism. Sometimes it's legal. It's them saying, this is too much risk, there's too much to review, it's just not worth it, it's not worth the time. And sometimes, ultimately, it's just policy. We don't do this ever, no exceptions. And then you're stuck because your sales team have no proof and you've got prospects asking you, who else has done this? Why should we trust you? And you find yourself fumbling through generic language or doing agnostic case studies. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like you don't have any real wins. Meanwhile, your competitor has a case study library. They're closing deals. So what do you do in this situation? Here's what I learned. The information isn't the problem, it's the packaging. A case study says to your clients, help us market ourselves, whereas a podcast says, we'd like to feature your expertise. It's the same information ultimately, it's just completely different psychology. Let me break down why podcasts get a yes when case studies get a no. First, personal brand beats corporate policy. When you ask someone to do a case study, you're asking their company for approval. Legal's got to review it, procurement has to sign off, marketing has to be involved. It's a corporate decision. But when you ask someone to be on your podcast, you're asking them. And suddenly it's about their brand, their personal brand, their LinkedIn profile, their industry credibility. People ultimately want to be seen as experts, right? They want to be thought leaders. And a podcast guest appearance does that. A case study that's buried on a website, not so much. Ego is the powerful unlock here. You've got to use it. Second, the ask of doing a podcast interview versus a case study, the question is completely flipped. When you're asking for a case study, it's, can you tell our prospects why we're great? And that's extractive. You're asking them to do work for your benefit. Whereas when you ask them to come onto your podcast, the framing is, we're profiling leaders in this space who are doing interesting work. We'd love to talk to you about how you built your team, your approach to this challenge, what you're seeing in the market. Now, it's collaborative. You're giving them a platform. You're helping them build their brand, and you're creating value ultimately for all parties. Because here's the thing, if you frame the questions right, they're naturally going to talk about the work that you did together. You don't even have to ask directly. Walk me through how you approach this problem. What was the process? What changed as a result? These questions, they're going to be bringing up the relationship and the story that you have together, because that's the honest answer to the question. The third reason is the ripple effect. This is what most people miss, is that once you break through with the podcast, other asks get easier. I saw this with a former client of mine. We worked with the NFL and they never did case studies with us. We asked for years. The answer was always no. So then we launched a podcast and the question became, hey, would you come on and talk about the great work that you're doing in fan engagement? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. The episode goes live, they love it, they share it. A month later, we come back with a, hey, can we quote you in an email to a prospect? Yeah, absolutely fine. Can we reference this result in a proposal? Go ahead. You've broken the ice. You've built trust. The no muscle relaxes because the podcast becomes the wedge that opens the door for everything else. So here's how you actually do this. Step 1, make a list of your no case study clients. Usually these are your best results, your biggest wins, the ones that you wish you could talk about. Step 2, don't pitch a case study, pitch a podcast. We're profiling VPs of products, CTOs, operations leaders who are doing interesting work in our space. Would you be open to a 30-minute conversation about how you're thinking about this challenge? Make it about them, not you. Step 3, frame your questions to let the story come out naturally. Don't ask, tell us what it's like working with us. Ask, how did you approach this problem? What was broken? What did you try? What actually worked? If the questions are framed right, they'll tell you the story that you wanted in the case study anyway. Step 4, get their sign off. Here's the beautiful part. They're going to want this episode to go live because it benefits them. And now you've got social proof. Step 5, you use this as a trust wedge. After the podcast, everything else gets easier. You can quote them. You can reference the results. You can use clips and sales decks. The initial no is broken. Look, if you've got a no case study client sitting in your CRM right now, this is your play. Stop asking for case studies, start a podcast, invite them on, let them tell their story. It's the same information, it's just a better package. It's an easier yes. So that's it for today. Short one, but this works. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. If you found it useful, send it to someone in your revenue team who's been banging their head against the "we don't do case studies" wall. I'm Jason. This is Pipe Dream. Talk soon.